Bienvenue, benvenuti, and welcome to Expatriotical, the podcast for expats, travelers, and other adventurous souls. I'm Chandra Alley, and after living as an expat with my husband and 4 children in 2 different countries for 6 years, I've learned the arts of pivoting during pitfalls, traveling tastefully for less, and soaking in amazing new cultures without losing your own. Join me as we dive into the joys and challenges of travel and the expat life in every episode. Good day, everyone. I hope that this episode meets you in a good mental space in your week. Today is the first of hopefully many more episodes to come where I get to interview someone who is new to me and to our community and has exciting things to share and offer. In today's episode, I am talking to Doni Belau, founder, owner, and favored tour guide of the company Girls Guide to the World. Doni got connected to Expatriotical after my 2-part interview with my friend Nikki aired. You can listen to episodes 23 and 24, Moving Abroad and Travel as a Solo Girl with Nikki, to find out more. But it was in that interview where I first learned about the vast world of solo girl travel. And that is exactly what Girls Guide to the World is about. So sit back, grab a cup of coffee, or maybe a glass of wine if you are chilling at home listening to this in the evening, and let your imagination soar as you listen to all that Doni has to share. Good morning, everyone, or afternoon, evening, whatever time it is where you're listening. This morning, my guest is Doni Belau, and as you will have heard in the intro, I gave a bit of an introduction, but I will have Doni explain more. But first, welcome, Doni. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Chandra. I'm so excited to talk to you today.
Okay, so as we said in the intro, you are the owner and founder of Girls Guide to the World, and I would love if we could start off with, for everybody listening, to get to know you a little bit better, just as a person. If you could tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe including like one interesting tidbit that people might not know about you at first glance.
So even though I have traveled to 80 countries now, I originally am from Nebraska. So for anyone who is not from the U.S., that is smack dab in the middle of the Midwest. It's the middle of the middle of the middle. And when I was growing up, they used to write articles about you if you got out of the state, if you went anywhere, So it's kind of an achievement to make it out of Nebraska, although it was a great place to grow up. And went to boarding school, met my husband. I married my high school sweetheart. And we went out to California together, lived in New York for the better part of our lives where we raised our kids. And I started this business about 15 years ago. So it is my 3rd career. I started first in television production, producing television commercials.
Okay.
And that was fun in my 20s. And then stayed home for a while with the kids. And I was lucky enough to have my husband be able to take an early retirement. He was in tech, and he stayed home with the kids, and then I went back to work, which was really cool. And I went back to work in the not-for-profit political arena, which was really, fantastic brain food. Met such interesting people. I started a not-for-profit in South Africa, but saving the world is exhausting. So. So I started this in 2009, and it really was going to be a content-based website around Paris. It was going to be a guide to Paris. It was called Girls Guide to Paris. It wasn't until 2011 when I started doing the tours. I always tell people I could write a book on how not to start a business.
Okay.
I had no business plan, no idea how I was going to make money. So it took quite a bit of trial and error before we got to where we are now.
That's fantastic. And so I would love, because like I said in the intro, I didn't do a ton of detail because I really wanted to dive in there with you. And so I wanted to ask you, can you please elaborate more on like what is Girls Guide to the World? What do you do? And then we'll from there we'll break into more questions.
Of course. In its current form, which, as I said, was an organic evolution, we are one of the largest women's only tour companies in the world.
Okay.
And there's really no one else doing what we do because they tend to be pretty high end trips. When I say high end, it's not so much that we only stay at five-star hotels, or we're doing luxury for luxury's sake. It's really not about that. It's about very highly curated trips for small groups of women. So 6 to 10, never take more than 10. And all of our guides, I used to guide them all, but now we have 65 trips. So all of our guides are trained I have a Girls Guide Bible, basically.
Okay.
But also we just did a training with a leadership coach. So the group dynamics are on a trip when you're going, so 80-90% of the people are coming solo. They are
Yes.
not coming with a friend. It's this opportunity to get out there and see the world. And maybe you're single, maybe you're divorced, maybe you're widowed, or maybe your husband or partner does not want to go to that place or doesn't want to travel. Any number of reasons why you want to go solo. You're sick of waiting for your friends. So it is an opportunity to go and meet other women. So we really pay a lot of attention to the group dynamics. We're making sure that you sit next to a different person each night so that you can get to know every single person on that trip and bond as a group. So once you get to 12 and 24 and really big groups, of course it's going to be more affordable, but you won't have that same feeling. And it's a really beautiful thing to watch a group come together. Women, we are made to bond. We are just, it is part of our DNA. And, especially as you get older, it gets harder and harder to meet new people. So this is an opportunity not only to see a fabulous place, an interesting country, soak in the culture, have fabulous food, but to come home with a new friend or five is the ultimate luxury.
I love that. To come home with a new friend is the ultimate luxury. I think that's going to be, we do a quote of the day, and that is it. To come home with a new friend is the ultimate luxury. That's beautiful.
All right.
I love it. So now would you clarify, because the name of the business is Girls Guide to the World, but girl probably doesn't mean that your trips are only intended for young women. And you kind of just brushed on that a little bit there. What are some of the demographics that you see on your tours?
Yeah, so I use the word girls because if you're going out for a girls' night or a night out with the girls or a girls'
Exactly.
weekend, you don't say it's a women's weekend or a ladies' weekend because that sounds too uptight. Now, in different
Yes.
countries, it's different. So
True.
I learned this from, we had a UK influencer come on a trip to Thailand that we did on a sailboat. And she said, girls, at least where she's from in the north of England, had a little bit of a diminutive meaning. So I take girls as, the Beyonce song, right?
Yeah.
Girls.
Yeah.
So girls for me and for most folks who come on our trips is an empowering, fun, never act your age, name it's that's the idea of the resonance of it, because I think ladies and women and all that is a little too uptight, but people can come on our trips from age 21 to 88 and even older as long as you can walk. I had
Yeah.
the oldest person so far has been 88 and she was amazing. She went to Japan with me. She lugged her bag all through the airport, which excuse me, through the train station, which everything is everything is public transport there is the word I'm searching for. But yeah, so what I love is not to define, it's like over 50 or over whatever,
Yeah.
to define a demographic too much, then you're stuck in a situation where what I love to see is a huge amount of diversity. Where you're from, maybe English is your second language. You can come as long as you speak English and you can walk. Those are the qualifications, and that you're at least 21. So I love to see younger people, say 24-year-olds, connecting with the 75-year-old and finding how much they have in common and how much they can learn from one another. That is the beauty of this multi-generational travel. I will say, however, that as you get older, you have more time and more money.
Yes.
So we do tend to have more people over 45, but I'm always striving for as much diversity as possible.
I love that. And I think it's something you were so gracious to let me meet with you beforehand, and we can kind of could kind of touch base. And you mentioned, because you had found out that what you were doing was considered solo travel. And you gave me a statistic, and would you mind sharing the statistic about solo travelers, and that demographic, please?
Yeah, so they've done some studies, a number of different organizations, but and I'm going to probably get these numbers a little bit wrong, but it's in the neighborhood of 85% of people who are traveling solo are women, and a better part, most of those folks who are traveling solo are over 45. So it's interesting because I actually, years ago, I listened to a podcast, I think it could have been NPR, where they were talking about how hormonally, and things change around age 50. So at age 50, and I think it's because, going back in time, our kids were grown. Now, of course, life expectancy was much shorter. But at age 50, we get more adventurous. I think it's just, it's natural. If you had kids, they're getting to the point where at least they're in high school, hopefully.
Yeah.
If you didn't have kids, you've got your career to the point where, it's solid and you can take some time now. And then you're getting closer to maybe retirement in your 60s, 65. So we as women get more adventurous. Men, if you have a partner or a significant other, they get more into nesting. And cooking, and I see that with my own partnership. I have talked to hundreds of women because that's a wonderful thing that I get to do with my job, and this is true. So the adventure traveler, an adventure for us is anything from just your first time you've ever been to Paris and navigating the airport to hiking the tiger's nest in Bhutan. So that would be probably the most. We don't do real hard adventures in our trips, but the adventure traveler is a woman.
And you know what? I really wanted you to share that with us, or with everyone, because for those that are out there listening that may say, well, I don't know. I mean, people my age, quote unquote, like maybe if they are 50 or older, like, I don't know if they're really traveling by themselves. Will I be the only person like me? No, you won't. And that's really great to hear. I wanted you to put that out there. So
yeah, it is important because and I see this particularly with widows. So you're having to, and as somebody who's been divorced also after maybe a long partnership, you're having to relearn how to travel. How are you going to travel alone now? I used to travel with Tim, my husband, and now he's not in my life anymore for whatever reason. So it's a new experience, and traveling with a partner, with a friend, with family is wonderful. We all love that, right? But it's really exciting to travel alone because it's empowering, especially if you've never done it. The more you do it, you realize, wow, I can really lead a pretty fulfilled life even without A, B, or C. And at some point we all are solo, if that's early in our lives or later in our lives or in the middle of our lives or for half of our life. I do think it's important for all of us, and particularly as women, to feel like we are okay in this world solo.
Yes. And I think another thing when we were talking beforehand that you mentioned is, maybe, hopefully, thank God your husband is alive and alive and well, but he doesn't want to go anywhere. And
Oh yeah.
what a great gift it would be for his maybe peace of mind that yeah, you're traveling but you're with a bunch of other ladies in a safe
Yeah.
vetted area. I mean, and then that gives you that empowerment, that freedom to step out and be like, okay, you can stay at home, I'm going to go, you know. I think that's really what a
Exactly. I
wonderful
call it
gift.
it's a gateway drug to full solo travel.
I love it. I
So
love it.
a lot of people don't want to go completely solo, meaning I'm going to Paris on my own or I'm going to Bhutan. You can't really go to Bhutan on your own, but other places you can. Um, because what I hear from a lot of people is they don't feel comfortable dining alone at night. They're fine for the rest of the day. They're fine to make friends, as they come across them and join, day tours or whatever. But it's that nighttime dinner. So
Mm.
I have gotten over that. I enjoy traveling completely solo. I've done it quite a bit, and I do suggest trying it. And even if that's just for a weekend in a neighboring town, just to
Yeah.
to feel okay, to it's just a confidence booster to know that you're okay sitting in a restaurant by yourself. It is totally fine. But anyway, like I said, we are the gateway drug for you, and
I love
it's
it.
what you get out of it though, which you probably won't have, but you might when you're going completely solo, is this opportunity to meet all these wonderful women. And
Mm.
these ladies, they come on our trips. So many of them stay in touch. We put together a WhatsApp group, so afterwards we see all the back and forth that goes on and on for up to a year, sometimes more. They will often plan trips to go visit each other. That just happened with the group that I just got off a trip with. We were in Sweden and Denmark, and they're already planned a way to meet up in the New York area. There was another group that had a reunion at someone's house down in Florida. Another group planned a whole trip that has nothing to do with us, in New Orleans on their own. I was just thrilled to see the sort of sparking that friendship fire and then having it grow into something and blossom into something that is, somebody you can be friends with for life. And maybe she's, living in a different country or in a different state, but you have connected in a deep way on one of these trips. And many, many times they'll pick another trip and go together with us again.
That's fantastic. I love that. And so, can you maybe please talk about some of the different trips, maybe like, one, two, three different trips that you have coming up in the next 6 to 12 months, not only the locations, but kind of the different themes or types of trips that you have coming up?
Thanks so much for that question. I appreciate it because we are really striving to do things a little bit differently. So I don't believe in, and I have this on my website if you go and check out the About page. We do not go to over touristed places. If we are going to a pretty touristy place, we're going to go off season. So
Okay.
the Loire Valley, for example, we do usually 2 trips to the Loire because it's so fantastic. And if you don't know it, it's the place with all the castles and where all the
Yeah.
nobility and the kings for summer, or come for shooting season, whatever. I have a great guide there who's lived there for many, many years. But I don't believe in going and just adding to the over touristing. So, like, we won't go to Santorini, for example. We are going, I'm leaving tomorrow to go to Croatia and Slovenia.
Nice.
Dubrovnik, which is, of course, the famous walled city, is a very touristy place. So this is why we're going later in the season. You
Yeah.
would not want to be there in the middle of summer, and it is pretty crowded. So we spend only a few days there, and then we are whisked off, and we're going up north. We're going to the Istria Peninsula. We're going to pick truffles. So the theme of this particular trip is really around culinary experiences. I do find you can learn so much about a culture by, going out with a fisherman and coming back, and we're going to grill those fish right on the beach. We're going to go truffle hunting. We actually have a 3 Michelin star restaurant we're going to have lunch at in Slovenia, Hisa Franco,
Oh,
one of the few women in the world that has 3 Michelin stars. So I'm a big foodie. I will always really examine, and we go out of our way to find absolutely fantastic restaurants. And of course, it's not always Michelin stars. Sometimes that's a street food tour where you're going to have, a taste, the taste of Turkey, for example, at the bazaar on a street food tour. No, another trip, let's say coming up, we have a trip to Fiji, which is a wellness trip. So we do a number of retreat style trips, but I never do a classic retreat where you're going to sit somewhere for 6 and 8 hours a day and learn something. It's more, you're going to have 1 to 2 hours of learning something, and then you're going to go out and experience the place that you're at. So I
Okay.
call them retreat/discovery tours. So
Yeah.
that one is a really cool trip. I might have a space left. It is with two different coaches. One is a health and wellness coach, but she's not going to just tell you eat tofu, and it's not going to be. She is much deeper than that. She talks about all the psychology behind why we collect some bad habits. She's also an expert, written a best-selling book on sleep, which as we get
Ooh.
older is so important. It's really a huge cornerstone of your health. The other lady, who's a really good friend of mine, is a dream specialist. So it sounds a little bit woo-woo, but she is a PhD. She deals a lot with scientists, so science and consciousness. So it's absolutely mind-blowingly, fantastically interesting, this trip, and you're going to be on a private island in Fiji. So we are trying to do really different and interesting things. But of course, like we have our Christmas markets trips to Alsace. We've got one to Charleston. They're always popular. Probably our most popular trip that is already, one of them is already sold out. We're going to do 3 next year to Amalfi.
Okay.
Amalfi is just unbelievably beautiful. Of course, we do a cooking, pizza class there, and learn about those huge lemons that they use to make limoncello, and the buffalo
Nice.
mozzarella and all of that. We don't go to Capri, we go to Istria, another island. Another really cool, interesting trip. And I go on the first trips. I design the original trip, and then I go on the first ones, and then I will have another guide take it from there. So one I'm really interested, really excited about for next year is Finland, from the
Ooh.
point of view of a woman. So Finland wins the happiest country in the world, has won it for the last 7 years. So we're
Wow.
going to go on a fact-finding mission to learn why these women are happier than anyone else. So
Mm.
surely we have something to learn from the Finns. Of course, we're going to visit Marimekko. We're doing all kinds of really cool things on that trip. And then we go to Asia. We go to Bali. I could go on and on. Japan is one of my favorite places in the world. I'm doing a lesser known place in Japan called it's basically I just had a brain freeze, the Yushu Peninsula, which is the far western part of Japan. Went there last year, fell in love with it. It's kind of the epicenter for pottery and Mari, amazing seafood.
Okay.
And then we have a lot of trips to Africa. I'm doing a trip next year to Zambia, the place where they started the walking safari. So yeah, we try and hit all over the globe, Peru, but always soaking in the culture, meeting with local people, learning what life is like for women in that country.
I love that. I love that. And so, with the different, obviously, you have curated a bunch of different trips. And so, this is just a short side question to say, what if you have a group of girlfriends that are like, can we curate a private trip? Do you do that as well?
You bet. And it doesn't even have to be all, if it's a private trip, if it's not on our website, if it's a private trip, it can be you and your family. It can be, as long as it's better than it's not just two or one person,
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
that just gets really expensive is all.
Yeah.
Because, I have a whole team of people that work on these things. So yeah, if you have, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 people that you want to go with it. It could be couples, it could be your family, it could be a bunch of girlfriends. We can create almost anything anywhere in the world for you, and have done. We did a trip to Iceland for a group of ladies. We did a bachelorette to Mexico City for a bunch of ladies. We're doing a family trip to Australia over the holidays. So yeah, we are travel experts. So of course we can create almost anything for you. But if you come to us, don't expect the absolute, standard normal fare that everybody else is doing. We want you to see something a little bit different, a little bit off the beaten path.
I love that. I love that. So with that, then, can you tell me what does your typical, it's hard to say typical because you have so many types, but what does your average Girl's Guide to the World trip include? Could you list?
Good question. Good question. So we try and include as much as possible. And I think that's important when you look at our price point versus another company so the number one thing that people love about us is that we assume you don't want to share a room. The price that you see is for a single room with your own bathroom. And, after the end of the day, you could put your feet up, take all your clothes off, run around naked, do whatever you want. Because I say that only because most of the women's only companies, and I know why they do this, it's understandable, they do it to save money so it looks less expensive. But then you've got the dreaded single supplement. So every woman that I know that's going solo hates to pay an extra $1,500, $2,000 for a single supplement. Why can't we just be considered adults? And most of us after age 25 don't want to share it with someone else. Even if you come with your sister, it's nice to have some quiet time on your own. So I find most people do not want to share. So it's a single room. We also provide wine, 2 glasses of wine or beer, with dinner.
Okay.
We stay in 4 and 5 star hotels or chateaus or lodges, depending on where we're at, and we keep the groups small. So this is why the price point is higher than a lot of other companies. You can always go cheaper. You can absolutely find other ways to go. But people, we're at a time in the world where for the first time, if you look back 50 years, right, 100 years, women, first of all, really, it was frowned upon for them to go alone, and they didn't have the money or opportunity. Now, so many of us have worked for that money, and we are able to spend it now and invest it in ourselves. So when I think of these trips, they are investment. They are not just a holiday. You can go to a holiday and have a wonderful, relaxing holiday, sit on the beach. This is really not that. This is going to be something that is much more culture rich, and it's an investment in yourself, because I find for myself, and I notice this is true for all the women that we work with and that we become friends with, it is an opportunity, a pattern interrupt. And somebody else coined this phrase. I had not known it before, but I was always trying to describe it. But it's basically, if you think about your life, your daily life, you've got all the patterns and the things that you do, your work life, your kids, all of the to-do lists that, is overwhelming a lot of us from day to day. Our work is really stressful, most of us. Life is pretty stressful now because it's moving too fast. So if you can get away, and if it's on my trip or anyone else's trip, and interrupt that daily pattern, it allows you to sort of pull back and get a broader view of yourself and your life. So what I love is that you come home and you think, wow, I can do this differently. I don't have to do X, Y, or Z. I can create the life that I want. But you really have to step out of your life in order to see it a little bit more clearly. When you're in it, you're in the rabbit wheel, you're in the gerbil wheel, so and you just can't see it. The other thing that you can do, I find this, it's a really a clear vision. You have it's almost like you become this young person again who sees things in a new light. You're like, oh my gosh, look how beautiful that is. It's because you're seeing things for the first time. It's actually a part of our brain. When it's something new, you take it in more. And then when it becomes a habit, the third bite of the chocolate bar is never as good as the first bite. So
Yeah.
there is something, and it's why people love a new romance, right? But it is an exciting feeling because you're awakening all your senses again. So it is an investment in your own health and well-being. They've done studies that show if you don't take a vacation, as you know, many Americans don't take their time off at all,
Yeah.
you have a much higher chance of having a heart attack. So it's actually, you live longer if you take a break from your life, and it makes
Exactly.
logical sense.
It totally makes sense. I love that. And I think that, I mean, you're kind of sparking some imagination. So I would really love for you, I've done a few episodes where I try to put people in this place where like they're imagining being in a location. Can you please wake up our imaginations and tell us the most memorable trip you've ever been on?
Wow. So that is absolutely impossible. But
Oh no.
I'm going to give you something that is just top of mind,
Okay.
because the trip I did in May was to Peru.
Okay.
And that was the first time we'd been to Peru. And I think I read Shirley MacLaine's book like 35 years ago, when she went to Machu Picchu and met with the shaman, which seemed completely crazy and out there then, and now it's like kind of normal.
Yeah.
She was ahead of her time. But so what was interesting about that trip, so many things, but so yeah, if you want to close your eyes and imagine this. So I, as well as everybody else on that trip, had been, Machu Picchu is a bucket list item. It's on almost everybody's bucket list. It's been something you've thought about, imagined your whole life. But there's a little fear in there that is not going to hold up to this expectation. And expectations can kill things. You have an oversized expectations for a movie sometimes, and it just doesn't hold up because you had it got so many great reviews, or a restaurant. So Machu Picchu, I was a little bit worried, and I think we didn't really speak about it, but so it's not an easy thing to get there, as you probably know. Some people hike up. We typically are not big hikers on our trips. So we took the Vista Dome train
Okay.
up to Aguas Calientes, which is sort of the town that then everybody departs from. So you go in this Vista Dome train, meaning you have this beautiful view all the way, and it's one of the most incredible train rides I've ever been on, because they invite you back to the bar car, which they've got dancing and singing, and they're offering champagne, which you do have to pay for. But it was this almost like a festival. We're all celebrating that we're going to Machu Picchu. By the way, on the way back, they do a fashion show and more dancing. So it's the most fun train ride that you probably could ever be on. Save the Orient Express and some of the real hyper luxury ones. So you get there by train. Then the hotel comes and picks up your luggage, and then you get whisked off on a bus that goes up to the top of Machu Picchu. Interestingly, which is also shocking, you're actually going down from Quito, and other places that you're going to be at in Peru. You go down to Machu Picchu. That gives you an idea of how huge those mountains, the Andes, are. But you're actually in a jungle environment in Machu Picchu. So at that time, it was about 2 o'clock. They're controlling the entrances now, so they're only allowing X number of people, which is great. So in the afternoon, we took there's like an A and B circuit. We took the B circuit, let's call it, and that's where you get the killer iconic view, where you see, from a distance, Machu Picchu, it nestled in the mountains. And when you see that for the first time, it is mind blowing.
Oh, that's
And,
amazing.
it's not as old as some of the other places like you'll see in Egypt, but it is, you can't, it's that pinch me thing. You can't believe you're there. And it's much more than you ever thought it was going to be, and I don't think that many places can stand up to that. These iconic places in the world, but there's a reason why they've become so famous.
That's wonderful. I love that. I love the picture that you painted for everybody. And I would love for you to share, if you would, for me, please, just where the website, where, if people are like, that's it. That's what I want. I want to explore, I want to discover, because you're going, I think you said, to 40 different countries this year. Yeah. So where can we find you on the internet, and where can we reach out to?
So we are at Girls Guide to the World. It's TO the World, and everything you can find from there, basically. So girlsguidetotheworld.com. From there, you can also find our social channels. We're very active on Instagram and Facebook, of course, and Pinterest as well. The handle is a little bit different, so I'll just say go to the website and you can find the handles through there.
Okay.
If you go to our contact page, I'd like to invite everybody personally to go to the contact page and join our private Facebook group. So it's called Girls Guide Traveling Sisterhood.
Cool.
In that place, we do not advertise our trips. We're not pushing people to take our trips. It's just really a safe place for women to cheer each other on, to say, go for it. This life is short. Get out there and travel. Wherever you go, whatever you do, we're behind you. We want you to see the world. Do not wait for anyone anymore. Just go out there and experience this life while you have it, because it is short. So I love that we have that sort of safe space, if you will, in a private Facebook group. And then, of course, sign up for our newsletter, because we have 4 different types of newsletters. And one is I write myself, and it's called Where in the World is Doni? And because I'm always, around, who knows where I am. My daughter says to her friends, where's your mom now? And she said, well, you have to look on Instagram. I don't know where she is. So Where in the World is Doni is one of them. And then we do a spotlight on trips. We do some travel hacks and tips and so forth. So check it out. We also offer, we have a number of ladies and actually one gent who happens to be married to me, who's luckily, it's all hands on deck over here. He had a really successful career, and now he's joined me in helping me to build this business. So anytime you want to talk to us, we'd love to talk to you. There's a lot of trips on there. There's 65 trips. So sometimes it's just hard to decide, and people need help figuring out, is this trip right for me? So shoot us an email at info@girlsguidetotheworld. We can set up a time to talk.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Doni. I really appreciate your time, and we will definitely be sending people your way. I'll have your website in the show notes, of course, and thank you again so much.
Well, Chandra, thank you. And I do want to offer your listeners one thing special. So if they put in the code Chandra, so your first name, CHANDRA, as a code, they're going to get a special gift. Because we want to know.
Thank you.
We want to know who's coming our way from you. And also we want to thank you for sending them. So thank you so much for this time.
This is wonderful. Thank you, you guys. This is so exciting. Thank you very much, Doni, and can't wait to join the follow on Instagram and see all the adventures you're taking, and wishing you a great rest of your traveling year. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chandra.
You guys, or maybe I should say you girls this time. What a fun episode. Doni has such enthusiasm for the joy of traveling and all of the benefits that it brings to your life that it kind of rubs off on you and gets you, or me in this case, even more excited about adventuring, especially adventuring as a solo girl. Doni truly believes in empowering women to see the world and has built her business around that belief. It should come as no surprise that Girls Guide to the World is this episode's Shan Select, and while I have not yet personally been on one of Doni's trips, my 4 kiddos may need to get a bit older before I do that, I can say that my recommendation of her and her company is not at all unfounded. Girls Guide to the World has not only won Traveler's Choice on TripAdvisor in 2022, 2023, and again this year in 2024, but she has also been featured in Forbes magazine, Newsweek, The New York Times, and many other travel sites. Traversing through the Girls Guide to the World website is like being a big kid in a travel candy store. I clicked on a tour that was actually already sold out, but it was Morocco, which is something I am very interested in. And ladies, Doni has left no stone unturned in her efforts to find and arrange a trip full of cultural, culinary, and visual delights. I'm a bit jealous of the 10 ladies that are going to go on that trip in mid-October. It is going to be full of adventure, amazement, purposeful relaxation, and so much more. And best of all, they will most likely do exactly what Doni said in our interview. It is something I loved so much that I have coined it as our quote of the day. And that quote is, "To come home with a new friend is the ultimate luxury." And hopefully that's something they will all come home with. If you are interested in discovering the gateway drug, as Doni said, to solo girl travel, head to girlsguidetotheworld.com and explore some of their many different options, from Charleston, South Carolina, which I've personally never been to the Loire Valley, France, which is phenomenal, or from Barcelona, Spain to Bali, Indonesia. There is so much to choose from. And remember that bit at the end where Doni mentioned that listeners to Expatriotical would receive a special gift? Well, that special gift is $250 off of any 2025 tour when you enter the code Chandra. That's CHANDRA. The offer expires on December 31st, 2024, and for full transparency, that is an affiliate code. I will, of course, be sure to include all of this information in the show notes with links to discover more about Girls Guide to the World. Seriously, you all, that is a super generous offer. So I just want to say thank you again to Doni Belau for being my guest on Expatriotical and for her generous gift to anyone listening. That is it for today's episode. Before I sign off, though, if you have not yet followed or left a review on whichever podcast app you are listening from, would you please do so? That really helps Expatriotical to be seen whenever people are in search of travel or expat podcasts. Thank you, guys. I'll meet you back here again next week, but for now, I wish you a lovely rest of your week ahead. This is Chandra Alley reminding you to live and travel in the know with Expatriotical.